The black and red flags of Cheliax are the heraldry of a nation that witnessed the death of prophecy, civil war ravaging its land, and would become ruled by a family willing to damn their souls to gain absolute power. Though Cheliax has been rightfully opposed by rebels, insurgencies, and independence movements in recent years, it is still an empire with grand ambitions and dark forces to back them up. In this chronicle, we look at the current head of this nation, Abrogail, second of her name and queen of the thrice-damned House of Thrune. Listen to the story of her family's rise to power, her ambitions and infernal sponsorship, and what has transpired under her rule to this day. Times are changing, and Abrogail Thrune might be set to bring upon changes that will bode ill for the world. Before we delve into the story of Abrogail and House Thrune, let it be known that any historical research of Cheliax is hindered by the vast revisionism executed under the rulership of House Thrune. Enemies are struck from the annals, and facts are reinterpreted and rewritten. The Order of the Rag, one of the Hell Knight orders, destroys books and documents that no longer fit the ruler's narrative in so-called clarity pyres. As such, even the history of Cheliax's queen is likely filled with half-truth and outright lies. With the death of the god Arodan in 4606 AR came the death of prophecy. King Gaspadar's divine mandate was built on one such prophecy, and thus his legitimacy crumbled, leading to the Cheliaxian Civil War. For decades, Cheliax was torn by this conflict between various noble houses, each vying for the throne. It would take until 4640 AR, when Abrogail I of House Thrune was crowned queen. Her house had not defeated their rivals with mundane means alone. Abrogail I had bargained with hell itself, signing away the souls of her lineage in exchange for infernal troops and advisors. Though the people of Cheliax did not take kindly to the idea of being ruled by devil worshippers, the decades of civil war had tired them, and they accepted their new queen if it meant at least a brief period of respite. Under House Thrune, Cheliax did indeed find some form of stability, though it did not come without challenges and inner turmoil. Queen Abrogail I ruled until 4672 AR, when she was killed by her own son Antoninus. Only 2 years later, Antoninus died after eating an incorrectly prepared safu'u fish dinner, and was succeeded by his cousin Terthuil. He would hold the throne for 8 years, but one day disappeared, leaving the throne vacant. His niece, Corelia, inherited the throne and would rule for 14 years. In 4696 AR, however, Corelia drowned, a death that was never properly investigated, and would be succeeded by Infrexus, who died in 4709 AR after he got trapped under the ice on the Adivian River. In a span of 69 years, 5 different rulers had sat on the Chelish throne. With succession laws within House Thrune practically non-existent, one can only imagine what Machiavellian politics were taking place, claiming even more lives in the shadows of the throne. While vying for power, the rulers of Cheliax also had to deal with matters of state and keeping their empire as united as possible. Perhaps without its infernal support, These fast and turbulent successions would have already meant the end of House Thrune's rule. Abrogail II was born into this family in 4692 AR, during Queen Corellia's reign. Given the name of House Thrune's first queen, her family perhaps assumed she was destined to become as great as the first infernal Magistrix. Abrogail took to the merciless internal politics of her house like a duck to water, and even more so to the infernal teachings of hell. She knew that her ancestor had damned her soul, so what point was there in not giving in to the powers hell had to offer? However, Abrogail also knew that loyalty to anyone but herself would sooner or later lead to betrayal. There was no one in the world you could trust but yourself. And though she was ever fervent in her faith in Asmodeus, she knew to not follow even the Lord of Hell blindly. After all, was Asmodeus not, according to some stories, the first betrayer, striking down his own brother as he pretended to reconcile with him? While Abrogail was careful putting her trust in Asmodeus, the Lord of Hell himself seemed to be sure the young Thrune would be a safe investment. Seeing her potential both politically and in magical power, the Lord of Hell sent one of his Erinyes to the scion of House Thrune. Contessa Lyrilatha became the personal tutor of Abrogail, teaching her the secrets of magic and training her in how to skillfully navigate political matters. With Lyrilatha at her side, young Abrogail would be perfectly prepared for the day she would ascend the throne. That day would come in 4709 AR, as she succeeded in Phrexus after his aforementioned icy death. Just 17 years old, Abrogail used her immature and capricious reputation as a tool against her enemies. No one expected such a degree of ruthlessness and cunning, as she played the part of the petulant teenage queen. Those individuals unfortunate enough to plot against her and have their machinations revealed by one of Abrogail's spies were brought to the imperial palace, where they were petrified and put on display as statues. All who come to Abrogail's court witness the fate of traitors and enemies. Keeping one's own court in line is, however, just one of the many challenges that weigh down the crown on Abrogail's head. In her time, Cheliax has faced various trials and even lost territory, a fact those who yearn for the throne surely hold against the young queen. In 4715 AR, the Glorious Reclamation formed. After the Hell Knight Order of the Godclaw unearthed Heart's Edge, a legendary blade once wielded by Iomedae, zealots of the Inheritor overran the Godclaw's stronghold Citadel Dinyar and claimed it. Now led by its wielder, Lord Marshal Alexiara Cancellarion, the Glorious Reclamation moved against the diabolic leadership of House Thrune all over Cheliax. In response, Abrogail enacted martial law, showing House Thrune's willingness to ruthlessly fight any insurgents. The Glorious Reclamation would eventually be defeated by Chelish forces, and Heart's Edge claimed by Queen Abrogail herself. Pretending to show mercy, she offered the blade to the Iomedean church in Aegorian, but ended up killing worshippers of the Inheritor with it and keeping the artifact to herself. To this day, Heart's Edge is part of her regalia, and the dried blood of the people Abrogail slew with it is still present on its blade. There is no doubt that Abrogail's brutal end to the Glorious Reclamation made many with rebellious inclinations think twice. But it was not enough to stop revolution in both Ravunel and Vidria. When Abrogail enacted martial law in 4715 AR, In response to the Reclamation's rise, she sent her distant cousin Abrogail Thrune to Kintargo to become its new Lord Mayor and oversee the Cheliaxian laws were followed. The Dotari under his command aggressively enforced these laws, and in a short amount of time, Kintargo and the surrounding region of Ravenel felt how far Thrune leadership was willing to go to oppress the nation's people and remain in power. History teaches us, however, that a people can only be oppressed for so long until they rise against those who mean to whip and drive them like cattle. In Kintargo, this resistance took form in the return of the Silver Ravens, a group of rebels that heroically stood against Barzillai and House Thrune. With the Thrune forces being spread thin from their fighting against the Glorious Reclamation and powered by the courage and tenacity of the Ravens, Barzillai Thrune could be defeated and Cheliax forces driven back. The Silver Ravens also discovered the Kintargo Contract, a document that offered legal ways for Ravenel to secede from Cheliax. All these factors led to the Silver Ravens negotiating a pact of non-aggression with their former rulers, which would lead to the full independence of Ravenel in 4717 AR. In the same year, the former colony Sargava would also declare itself independent under the new name of Vidrian. 2 years earlier, the native Mwangi population, supported by colonists appalled by how Cheliax rulership had wreaked havoc in the colony, had risen against House Thrune and toppled its representatives. After also stopping their payments of protection money to the free captains, Vidrian was a fully sovereign nation, and one more piece of land that fell away from Cheliax during Abrogail II's rule. To this day, Abrogail still refers to the new nation by its old name of Sargava, nothing but spite for its independence dripping from her lips. Losses of these territories surely must be a deep cut to a ruler as ambitious as Abrogail, and it is water on the mills of her enemies. Still, she holds on to the rest of the empire, and is surely planning to see where Cheliax can conquer new grounds. Hell is also not done with her. Abrogail Thrune is the only mortal given the authority to create and offer infernal contracts. These contracts offer great power and benefits, but at very harsh terms. Additionally, anyone signing one of these Thrune contracts damns their soul to hell. We do not know how many individuals Abrogail has convinced to put their name and soul to such a deal, but Hedvent VI, ruler of Isgir, is known to have signed a Thrune contract, giving House Thrune immense leverage over him. Rumor has it that also the Cheliaxian composer and conductor Quendel Strickrunner signed a contract, which takes away her ability to speak or sing anti-Cheliaxian phrases, while in exchange, making her more influential within the artistic scene of Egorian. It might be a blessing to neighboring nations that in the current year, Abrogail Thrune is too occupied with keeping her own house and rivaling factions under her control. However, the fact that she still seems to be in good standing with Hell and with Asmodeus himself does not bode well for the Inner Sea region. It is only a matter of time before the Infernal Majestrix will set her sights on new goals. And in times where gods die and their blood covers the lands, who knows to what new and nefarious heights this lady of a thrice-damned house will rise. Thank you so much for watching this video about Abrogail Thrune. Has the queen of the thrice-damned house featured in your stories? And what role do you think she will play in Golarion's future? sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, take care, stay safe, and bye-bye!